Thank you, Jerry. Thank you on behalf of all of my colleagues at the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies. I'm honored to be here this evening amongst Barbara's many friends and admirers, and we are honored to have the support of the McDowell Foundation. As litigators, you may appreciate that my colleague, Eunice Lee, was supposed to be here tonight, but a distinguished panel of the Ninth Circuit had other plans. Tomorrow morning in San Francisco, we have an oral argument in the Ninth Circuit on the Remain in Mexico program, on the government's motion to stay the preliminary injunction we won in the Northern District of California against the administration's illegal decision to make asylum seekers wait in Mexico for their day in a U.S. immigration court. Save that for tomorrow, but thank you. Litigators are storytellers. For the past year, we've been trying to tell the stories of the refugees affected by an unprecedented assault on our federal immigration laws, on our international treaty obligations, and on our best humanitarian traditions. The refugees affected by the Remain in Mexico program, which we are challenging in a case called Innovation Law Lab v. Nielsen, I don't know who the next Nielsen will be, have presented themselves at a U.S. port of entry and requested asylum in the United States, according to U.S. law. The government has chosen to push them back across the border to wait in dangerous Mexican border towns for months, if not years, until their plea for asylum is heard in a U.S. immigration court. Their story is that they are desperate and vulnerable asylum seekers who, on top of everything else, are extremely confused about what kind of process they're in and how they will even know when they are next supposed to report to court without a permanent address in Mexico to which the courts can send notice. Our plaintiffs are also legal service organizations who have no capacity to advise, much less represent, asylum-seeking clients who are in Mexico. The story of the refugees affected by the government's attempt to close the door on people fleeing domestic violence and ruthless gangs is that they are mostly women and children who are escaping horrific levels of gender-based violence in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras at the hands of their intimate partners, or gangs, or both, and who are suffering from the utter disregard of the police and the courts in their home countries who should be protecting them. The former Attorney General issued a decision almost 1 year ago called Matter of AB, stating that domestic violence and gang claims will generally not be eligible for asylum. In addition to overturning established precedent, his decision returns us to darker days when domestic violence was a private matter within a relationship, that's something that state authorities did not need to be concerned with. We were able to mount a systemic challenge to the use of this reasoning in preliminary screenings for credible fear at the border. And we won a nationwide injunction in December from Judge Sullivan in the DC Circuit in a case called Grace v. Whitaker. However, Matter of AB's pernicious reasoning is still good law in asylum adjudications on the merits. We continue to litigate her case and as many others like her as we can. We are racing against the clock to get a positive circuit court decision overturning Matter of AB before even more women and children are wrongly denied protection because of its application. I'm pleased to be able to introduce a short video that the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies and Human Rights Watch produced, where Ms. AB, our client, tells some of her own story. So please feel free to share this video. It's on the Immigrant Women 2 website. And thank you for your attention.
Durante mucho tiempo yo viví con él, sufrí mucha violencia, golpes, abusos, violaciones, incluso mi tercer hijo que tengo, lo tuve prácticamente por violación, yo no quería y pues él me forzaba. Y un amigo que igual me decía que me iban a matar, que me iban a meter en una bolsa negra y me iban a tirar al río. Yo huí a otro departamento, pero El Salvador es pequeño. Él siempre me encontró, siempre llegaba. Entonces yo decidí huir.
Miss AB's case is about domestic violence, and it's about El Salvador. But the broader principle in the Attorney General's decision matter of AB is a broader principle about women's human rights in countries around the world. We know that women suffer violations of their fundamental human rights because they are women in so many ways, whether it's honor killings or sexual slavery or female genital cutting or domestic violence. We are closing the door to people who are so deserving of our protection.
La policía no hacía nada y yo les decía todo lo que me ha pasado, pero lo miran como que si a su pareja tiene derecho a hacer lo que él quiera porque es su pareja.
When we think about asylum law, not only do you have to suffer past persecution or have a well-founded fear of future persecution, you have to show that the government's unwilling or unable to protect you. So Miss AB in this particular case, she tried to leave town and hide. She tried to change her phone number. She tried to seek protection from the police. She tried to divorce her husband. She did divorce him, and still he continued to commit violence against her. When you take this in its totality, there was absolutely no protection for her to remain in El Salvador.
Pueden haber leyes, pero no se cumplen. Cuando me dieron las medidas de protección, no utilizaron otro medio para llevárselas a él, sino que me pusieron a mí, o sea, que yo misma las llevara. Entonces vino él y la rompió, las medidas, me dijo, mira lo que hago con lo que me han mandado, rompió los papeles y me los tiró a la cara. Entonces yo sentía mucho temor, yo sentía mucho miedo y yo no podía más.
We see this decision, the Attorney General's decision in Miss AB's case, as really wrong on the law, wrong on the facts in terms of what the reality is in El Salvador. Because asylum is not for somebody who can stay at home and be protected. It really is for that person whose government has just abandoned them and has left them really to the mercy of their abuser.
Lo que he oído la noticia de que dicen que violencia doméstica no es como para que a uno le puedan ayudar acá. Es triste para mí venir y saber esto, porque el regresar allá para mí sería, no quiero ni pensar que voy a regresar, porque puedo correr lo mismo que ha pasado con otras mujeres que ya no van a poder estar contando lo que les pasó, porque ya no están, ya están bajo tierra.